All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Thursday. I met Michael Avenatti 6 months ago. He decided to come on our show. He's been on our show every week, except for the last few weeks, because he's behind bars. And I had a chance to hang out with Michael Avenatti, had dinner with him a few times, even played a little blackjack with the guy. And I'll be honest with you, I enjoyed hanging out with him. Smart guy, entertaining, great guest for our show. And I've enjoyed it. I really have. And I hope he didn't commit any crimes. If he did, he's going to have to pay for those crimes. As I've said over and over again, when you go after the most powerful people in the world, you better not have any skeletons in your closet. He's never been convicted of a crime. He's not a criminal. So we need to explain that right now. But he is on trial for his life. And he's got a lot of issues going on, particularly right now. It is the Nike issue, where Nike is claiming that he tried to extort them out of $25 million. Testimony going on right now. Opening statements were yesterday, and the gentleman that's joining us on the line with us right now, he's from the Associated Press. His name is Larry Neumeister, and he's been reporting on this from the courtroom, actually. Larry, I appreciate you taking some time to join us. How are you?
Good. It's been a good trial so far.
So, Larry, let's start from square one. How did the jury selection go? And is Michael Avenatti's attorneys confident that they have the right people on the jury that are not biased?
Well, you never know that until the trial proceeds and you get a verdict, and So I'm sure the lawyers hope they have the right jurors on the jury, but you just never know at the outset.
Sure, I understand that. Yeah.
I'll tell you, though, today's testimony has been very interesting because it's a guy, Scott Wilson, who represented Nike in his negotiations. Well, what Avenatti's team would call negotiations last year. It was actually March of last year. But Scott Wilson, the lawyer who actually worked for the David Boies law firm. And David Boies, I don't know if you remember, back in the Tide 2000 presidential election, David Boies represented the Democratic Party before the Supreme Court.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a very successful law firm with about 100 lawyers. But in any event, at the time, Scott Wilson was working for the David Boies law firm and representing Nike. And today he described Avenatti's, what Avenatti would describe as negotiations, he described as a stick-up.
Wow.
Saying that Avenatti was claiming he would basically create a media firestorm that would really damage Nike's bottom line and drive down the volume or the value of its stock by billions of dollars unless Nike paid him between $15 million and $25 million.
Wow. So that's interesting testimony today. I just want to go back to yesterday, if I may, the opening statements. Sure. Did anything yesterday in the opening statements from both sides stand out to you that you can share with us?
Well, I think, I think from the prosecutor's standpoint, they believe this was extortion and that Avenatti went way over the line of what a lawyer can do when he's negotiating a contract. And from Avenatti's side, they want the jury to conclude that this is the kind of thing that goes on behind the scenes with lawyers all the time. And of the three trials that Avenatti faces, this might be his easiest chance to perhaps win.
I agree with that. I do agree with what you just said, and I've had private conversations with Michael, and he's said that similar thing. He believes he's going to win this case. He's told me that. He's very confident in the Stormy Daniels thing, but one of the things he told me, and I don't think he'd mind me saying this, is that he was concerned about the California case. Can you talk a little bit about that if you've been following that?
Yeah, I'm not really deeply informed on the particulars, but the California case is difficult for him. First of all, because it's been investigated over a long period of time, and prosecutors have had plenty of time to study off his bank records, all the documents describing what should have happened when there were settlements on behalf of clients, tracing where the money went. and so if he did things that he should not have done with money that was awarded through court victories or whatever, it's going to be pretty hard to say it never happened, because bank records and phone records and everything else are kind of set in stone.
Sure.
You can't really contest those easily.
Sure.
But the Nike trial is totally different because there have not been a lot of cases like this where a lawyer or anyone is being accused of this sort of extortion. And I imagine there might be a greater latitude for jurors to reach their own conclusions as to whether they think Avenatti's state of mind was that he wanted to extort money, or was he just trying to get the most money he could out of a negotiation?
He is Larry Neumeister with the Associated Press. He's covering the Michael Avenatti trial right now as we speak in New York. Okay, Larry, let's talk a little bit about Michael Avenatti, his presence in the courtroom, his demeanor, because as you know, we've covered this. He has been in a brutal cell that El Chapo was in. He's in solitary confinement 24/7. My understanding is he's only allowed one social phone call a month. This is a man who lived a very lavish life. He has over $1 billion in settlements. He had the nice cars. He had a private plane. He was going to the nicest restaurants. The man had a lot of money, right? I don't know if he still does. But now he's in a jail cell 24/7. So talk a little bit about that and talk about his demeanor and what does he look like in the courtroom.
Well, in the courtroom, he actually looks like he always has. He's very animated and writing lots of notes, studying papers, passing notes to his lawyers, talking to his lawyers constantly. At one point when the witness today was speaking of him in a negative way about the way he was threatening him with media coverage, he was shaking his head no, and he just looks like the guy who you saw on TV dozens of times.
Yeah. So how much longer do you think this trial is going to go?
I think the trial will go. It's projected to go 2.5 weeks. It could end even before that. I think prosecutors have said their case will take like a week or a week and a half. That's about it. One thing I want to say, though, you said he was limited, like one social call a month or whatever. They've relaxed some of those rules for him.
Good. Good.
And I think now I think he gets a social call every day.
Good.
I recall the records on that. And I'll tell you, he, like I said, he looks like he always did. I covered the Epstein case over the summer, and when he tried to commit suicide at one point and then later did commit suicide, when he first came into court, he was very active with his lawyers and everything. But after his first suicide attempt, boy, he just looked like a really depressed person and
wow,
and would barely move in court. So, it's encouraging. You want to see a person looking like they always do. And in Avenatti's case, he looks like he could go on TV in the next hour.
Well, that's nice to hear. I think mentally he's a tough guy, and I think that'll help him through this. A couple more questions for you, Larry.
Yeah.
Let's start with the makeup of the jury. How many men, how many women, and how have they been reacting?
I believe it's split 6 and 6, 6 men and 6 women, and they're just studying the evidence. They have little TV monitors in front of them. Like today, there was a video shown of the meeting between Nike lawyers and Avenatti. I guess because it was surreptitiously done. At one point, he's in the picture, and then somehow or another gets turned on another lawyer, and you only see Avenatti through his reflection in like a piece of glass.
Wow.
Through the rest of the video, so it's a little bizarre.
Wow.
But yeah, the jurors are just looking down at their monitors. I'll tell you, they're not falling asleep. This isn't. I've seen plenty of trials where jurors actually do look like they're falling asleep.
Well, that's good to know.
One of those.
We want them to do their due diligence. All right. So, what is he facing if he's guilty, and does this have to be a unanimous verdict?
Yes, it does have to be a unanimous verdict. So, if it's not a unanimous verdict, he's not convicted or exonerated. The other option is that the jury deadlocks, and it only takes one person to deadlock it.
Right.
11 want to acquit or 11 want to convict, and one person disagrees. That it's just a hung jury, and they would have to do it all over again.
Well, Larry, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Larry, first of all, let me just say I appreciate your diligence and your reporting, and thank you for your perspective. Love to have you on again maybe for a segment next week so you could give us an update, and I really do appreciate your time, sir. Thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, there you go. Thank you. Larry, that's Larry Neumeister from the Associated Press. Wow, I didn't know he also was the guy that was in the courtroom covering the Epstein trial. My goodness, that must have been something. It's interesting what he said, though. Right, Epstein, a short time before he was successful in killing himself, he looked depressed, right? He just looked like a guy that, was down and out and wanted to kill himself, I guess you could say. I don't see Michael Avenatti as that guy. In the time I have spent around him, I just don't see him as that guy. I think he's too mentally tough to ever consider something like that. And by the way, it's important to note he has never been convicted of a crime. So my question is, and I've asked this question before, and I'm going to say it again. I think he's in the situation he's in because he went after Nike, one of the biggest companies on the planet, because he went after Donald Trump for years. I think that's why he's in the position he's in now. I don't know whether he committed a crime or not, but I believe they opened up the books on him. I really do. And I think that's one big part of this. And I think another big part of it is everyone is so partisan on this, right? If you're a Republican, chances are you're probably going to go after Michael Avenatti because he went after your lover boy, Donald Trump. If you're a Democrat, chances are you're probably going to defend him because he went after Donald Trump and he was involved in the whole Stormy Daniels thing. And he's the main reason why Michael Cohen is behind bars right now. Do you think it's fair that Michael Avenatti is being treated the way he is, that he is in solitary confinement for 24/7? Do you think it is fair that Michael Avenatti is in the same jail cell that once El Chapo was in? Do you think it's fair that Michael Avenatti is in a jail where there are lifelong criminals in there that have killed multiple people, violent criminals? Is that fair? Forget about your political bias for a second if you have it, and I would assume many of you do. Is this the way you want white-collar criminals to be treated? Is this fair? Or do you think this is political? Do you think that the Attorney General Barr has something to do with this? Do you think that Donald Trump has something to do with this? Do you think the fact that Phil Knight is a Trump supporter and a Republican from Nike has something to do with this? I want to get your thoughts on that. What do you think about the way Michael Avenatti is being treated? Do you think he's guilty or innocent? And how do you think this trial, this Nike trial, is going to go? Give us a call. That number, 702-257-5396. If you want to be a part of the program, again, that number one more time is 257-5396. We will take a quick break, and we'll be back with your phone calls on the other side. This is the Vegas Take right here on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.